Now let's move on. These next couple of articles, these two stories relate to Iran. We're going to hit some international news, and then we're going to close out with some empowerment. I'm going to read you guys a chapter from my second book, Finding Freedom in an Age of Confusion, and we'll talk about that in just a moment. So now, as I mentioned, if you were to trust the deadstream corporate media, they would be telling you that Iran has attacked an American Navy ship just yesterday. So America needs to retaliate. Who out there has heard of Gulf of Tonkin? You guys familiar with the Gulf of Tonkin incident? It's a false flag incident. It's now proven to be false flag. Robert McNamara, former official in the U.S. government, confirmed this, as many people have suspected, that the Gulf of Tonkin incident is what sparked and was kind of the ultimate push for Americans to get involved in Vietnam. And it was a completely fabricated event. It never happened. Gulf of Tonkin. So, you know, the thing is, we were lied to about it. Global Research says great. We were lied to about it, and they sent people, young men and women, to go die, well, young men at the time, to go die in a war that people didn't want to be involved in the first place. We are witnessing this right now. Rest assured. You know how, if you're in the conspiracy research world or just independent research, you look back and you read about these things like, oh, Gulf of Tonkin. Oh, yeah, like, you know, all these things that are in the distant past. Well, like, red alert, we are having one of these happen right now. This is a false flag event that is taking place. And I'll say this at the least. They haven't provided any evidence so far that clearly, conclusively shows that Iran has attacked the U.S. So this article is coming from the Anti-Media, from Darius. Great, amazing writer. I'm just going to skim through this for you guys. It says, at a press briefing on Thursday, White House Press Secretary Sean Spicer asserted that Iran had attacked a U.S. naval vessel. This statement was taken as part and parcel of his argument defending the Trump administration and decision to put Iran on notice, is what they said the other day. However, as the Intercept, Glenn Greenwald, confirmed directly with Pentagon spokesperson Christopher Sherwood, the attack in question actually took place on a Saudi warship. And the suspected perpetrators of the attack are the Houthi rebels currently leading an insurrection in Yemen, not Iran. So let's get that straight. So the attack is actually alleged, according to the Pentagon's own spokesperson that's told this to The Intercept, that it came from Yemen, which is experiencing civil war, and definitely you have the U.S. hand there. The U.S. has been drone bombing them for years now. Attacking a Saudi ship, not an American naval ship, and it didn't come from Iran, but now they're spinning it that way. But Iran is allegedly backing the Houthi rebels in Yemen, so now by proxy they're saying, oh, that was Iran, and they attacked Saudi Arabia, which coincidentally, Saudi Arabia was part of the funding of the 9/11 attacks that we were lied to about, and they're also America's partner in oil, and greatest export is Wahhabism, extremism, radical Islam, and true extremism, where they're cutting people's hands off and beheading people. But the United States remains partner with them, and despite Donald Trump and his ban on terrorist nations, there's no ban on Saudi Arabia. But because the United States is so closely connected with this nation, they're I guess considering it to be an attack on them. So surely any attack by those rebels against the U.S. or its allies can be deemed an assault by the Iranians by proxy, right? According to UN experts, no. These UN experts presented a report to the UN Security Council just this past weekend stating that the panel has not seen sufficient evidence to confirm any direct large-scale supply of arms from the government of the Islamic Republic of Iran, although there are indicators that anti-tank guided weapons being supplied to the Houthi or Saleh forces are of Iranian manufacture. So they're saying some of the weapons have been made in Iran, but there's no evidence that Iran has been providing weapons to rebels, at least according to this most recent UN panel. And if you're skeptical of the UN experts, this article says, well, let's look a little bit further. Perhaps one could analyze the claims made by mainstream media regarding Iran's role in Yemen to see if there's any substance to the narrative that Iran is backing the Houthi rebels, as noted by a Truth Out article published in October 2015. So he goes on to show, to basically just show that there's really not any evidence, compelling evidence of Iranian involvement in this, but America is pushing forth either way. And this brings me to the next article, Damon, on the antimedia.org. Iran just officially, as of February 1st, ditched the US dollar in a major blow to the US. Here's why it matters. Now tell me if you've heard this before. Tell me if you've heard this before. Middle Eastern nation decides to drop US dollar, reject US hegemony, reject U.S. imperialism, and then all of a sudden, we need to go attack them. We need to go after these people. I think we've heard this one before. And guess what? The American public's probably going to fall for it again. It's up to each of us out here who are paying attention and seeing this information. Yeah, Libya, exactly. To pay attention and to spread this information. Following President Trump's ban on travelers from 7 predominantly Muslim countries, the Iranian government announced that it would stop using the U.S. dollar as its currency of choice in its financial and foreign exchange reports, according to the Financial Tribune. Iran Governor Valeyla Saif's central bank announced the decision in a television interview on January 29th. The change will take place on March 21st, and it will impact all official financial and foreign exchange reports. Iran's difficulties in dealing with the dollar, he said, were in place from the time of the primary sanctions, and this trend is continuing. He says, when it comes to other currencies, we face no limitations. So what does this mean? How is this going to affect the average American? Well, what we should be paying attention to is it seems like we are in 1984. Things have reversed. All of a sudden, the right-wing conservatives, instead of hating Russia, they're like, yes, let's be partners with Russia. And now they're ready to hate China. We've also got some crazy division in the country where the extreme left wing is willing to use violence against the extreme right wing. And those of us in the middle who are trying to hold it down independently and find sanity and freedom are just like, what the hell is going on? So how does this international situation play into all that? If nations like Iran, Syria, China, other nations who are not friendly to U.S. imperialism and U.S. colonialism and empire, if they began rejecting the U.S. dollar, that could have huge implications. And there's already been moves like this taking place for years where with the BRICS nations are moving away from into their own possible currency. You also have nations moving away from OPEC, the oil-producing nations. And all of these things could signal, and I think this is the direction we're going into, is that the U.S. is going to lose its role as superpower, and we're going to shift to a place where either Russia or China kind of take that stance. And I don't think this is a positive necessarily a positive thing, because if you're thinking about this, Russia and China are already using authoritarian measures against their people, surveillance state, police states, repression of freedom, repression of sexuality, all these different things. And the United States is going to be up there with them, but with a little bit less power. So what I've been telling friends is you have to face this reality. I'm 32, so most of it, maybe there's some of you a few years older than me, a bit older than me, some younger than me, but our generations generally who are tuned into this technology and are paying attention, we are going to see the United States shift from being the number one superpower, and all the luxuries and things that Americans have become accustomed to, having food from all around the world, and just all these things that we take for granted will probably change or be a lot more expensive as the U.S. loses this number one power. And some would say that this is being done, social engineering, the division, the separation of Americans becoming further polarized, and the breaking down of Americans' power and shifting to other nations, because elitists, globalists, banksters, Illuminati, whatever you want to call them, the ruling class, the parasite class, they would like to have a nation like the U.S. a little bit weaker, a little bit more manageable, a little bit more controlled, surveyed, suppressed, distracted, and we can't do that with too much economic wealth. So I think that overall the United States is going to shift from power. We're going to see that take place possibly during the Trump administration. Maybe some people will blame it on him. Ultimately, it doesn't matter because presidents are puppets. They are selected, not elected.